Thank you for coming back to another Hobo Talks. This time I'm going to be talking about SHIB and some things that have come up with me personally. But I did want to share this little information here. It's from yesterday. It looks like a company that is making a game, some type of musical game, is planning to burn $100,000 of SHIB. Not 100,000 SHIB, $100,000 of SHIB. I believe the same company has already burned about 25K. So I think that number of 25K. But they've also shown some of the receipts to that, showing some of the burn wallets and things they've already sent stuff to. So some good information if you got some SHIB out there already. There's lots of little companies and things that are going on like that. But back to the original reason for this. So if you're like me, you're probably got some SHIB, and as things are going really crazy, going really up and down over the last couple of months, you've probably picked up some. Maybe 1,000, maybe 1,000,000, maybe 1,000,000,000, depending on how much money you had. But long story short, during my journey, I kind of learned about staking and all that stuff, trying to take my coin journey to the next level, and brought me to learn about Shiba Swap. So they've got 6 different categories. Got Dig, NFTs, Berry, Swap, Bonefolio, and WOOF. So Dig is kind of like where you do your liquidity. NFTs, well, we all pretty much know what those are, but they're very limited. So if you got it, you got it. If you didn't, you didn't. They may come out with some more later, but right now helps keep the value of them up to not have a ton of them. Berry is where you stake, which is basically the main point of this video. Swapping is if you want to swap one token for another token. Bonefolio is kind of the analytics part of it, where you can check in on how things are going overall. And then you can also look into your own stash. And then the WOOF section, which is where you claim your rewards. So the main thing that I've kind of run into is when I bury, so I've buried a little bit of Shiba and a little bit of Bone. When I go to my bury SHIB, I'll probably have it blurred out, but up top you can see there's a number that's longer than the other numbers. There's an actual value in there. At the bottom here, this Wooful Ryoshis of the week has been stuck at 0 for what seems to me about 3 weeks. I've watched a lot of videos kind of speaking about things kind of like this, but they were done so long ago. I'm not sure everything is still valid, because most of those videos, this area kind of said coming soon and things like that. Now, one thing that I did see on, I think Reddit, someone kind of mentioned that if you miss the boat, you kind of have to wait for it to come back around. And what I think they mean is kind of like if you join a job, right? If, every job for the most part has a 2-week cycle. If you happen to show up after the cutoff, like if there's like a certain cutoff that happens, you may work a week or almost 2 weeks before payday will show up, and you won't get a check, and it will loop around to the next check, because the money you're trying to get right now, you essentially haven't earned yet. And then that next check, when that shows up, then that's going to have everything in it that you've earned so far, things like that. So it's very possible that I need to wait an entire month before this really kicks in and I start to see stuff down here. Now, from my understanding, even what it says, Ryoshis of the week, I assume this is supposed to be a weekly thing, but perhaps the very first one that happens doesn't show up for a while. And it's probably done to keep like whales and things like that from just jumping in and jumping out. I believe it's locked for 6 months anyway. So the majority of it, at least. So one thing I have noticed, which is why I'm somewhat confused about this, the actual SHIB portion is the bone. So I buried a very small amount of bone, nothing that crazy. So this doesn't have the section below it for some reason. But when I hit the cumulative bone rewards, I click here, this does actually show up with something. And it's a very small amount, right? It's 0.0347. So not really anything. But I did this around the same time as I did the SHIB, and this has been up here for at least a week. I haven't claimed it because that's such a small amount, plus the high fees, that it's not really worth it. But this, I believe, is being generated by this Bone ETH that I have here, where it's it's making a little bit of liquidity and I'm getting a little bit of money off of it. So this has been very confusing to me as to why one shows and one doesn't. Because if I missed the boat, it would make sense to me that neither would show, or they would both show. It's possible they're on different times, where one's weekly, the other one's also weekly, but you have to wait. It's very possible. I know a lot of this is kind of new, so there's a lot of stuff that maybe they can improve and change kind of over time. Now, another thing that a lot of people may not know is, and this is something that I did see, and it's really the only real reason I know, or I'm not that totally concerned, is this bone folio, right? So if you click on this, it's going to bring up the analytics, basically for SHIB in general. It's going to show all the different options between SHIB, leash, bone, the pools, if it's going up, it's going down, kind of how things are looking. But one thing you can do here is if you scroll down to the bottom, go down here to portfolio, a message usually will pop up when it feels like it. It's going to ask you to enter your wallet ID. So, or the address. Go ahead, hit that in, and then you may actually see some things show up here saying that you've earned a certain amount, like your return on investment of each section of whatever you've actually put in there. So I'll probably end up blocking out a lot of this part here. But my point is, if you want to see what you've made and actually see that something's in there doing something, I believe this may be the only way to do it before it starts to show up on that other screen. So anyway, I thank you guys for coming on this journey with me. I know I've put out a couple of videos on Jade and the craziness going on with Jade, and I wish that was still gaining, a lot of the rebases and things like that. That's kind of why I jumped into it. But from my understanding, that is something that they've basically always said that we're not that. Like, we're doing that to get attention and stuff like that, but we're a VC. We're not a fork of Olympus, DAO, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a whole nother story there. But if you do have SHIB, you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on with it, I recommend you look at your portfolio here and see what it actually shows in there. Because if it's showing some things that are pending, some stuff that's going up there, I believe those are all good signs. I'm not an expert. This is not financial advice, all that stuff people always say, but it's definitely something for you to check out. And if you're not in the SHIB, this buying, what is it, $100,000? I don't know over how much time. I guess it's depending on how quickly the game's done, things like that. But that could be a big deal. That, and not only just that, but others also doing it. That may help the price of SHIB go up just by removing quantity. That's one of the main components of keeping something high. It's making it scarce and people still wanting it. All right. Thank you once again for coming on this journey with me. This is a great way for me to remain the world's richest hobo. And I'm really making a run at this. In case you didn't know, I's a hobo.